What does it mean to be black and be Mormon? Well, if you are black and Mormon, it means that you accept all the principles of Mormonism, because nobody's Mormon without accepting everything. You have to accept the gamut to truly be Mormon. And I speak from experience as a recovering Mormon. I understand with a great deal of clarity and knowledge what it means to be a Latter-day Saint and what's involved in the Mormon culture. Now, Mormons believe in something called Latter-day Revelation. They believe in the prophets, seers, and revelators of old, just as the ones in the Old Testament. Jews introduced the idea of prophets to the world. Mormons have then expanded on that, and they did that in the 1800s with a boy by the name of Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith, who wrote the Book of Mormon, was from Palmyra, New York, and was a prophet, seer, and revelator according to the Mormon Church. Now, since Joseph Smith, there's been Brigham Young, Wilford Woodruff, so on and so forth, up until the current president of the church, which is Thomas S. Monson. Mormons believe that the prophet cannot lead them astray, that he speaks on behalf of God the Father and the Son Jesus Christ. He speaks as though God is speaking. This is not me being sensational. This is fact, doctrine, this is their core ideology. This is the fundamental tenet that they will use to argue if you find a contradiction between the Bible and the Book of Mormon. The entire contradiction is defended on the premise that Mormons believe in latter-day revelation. In other words, that prophets, seers, and revelators have existed since Joseph Smith, one at a time, to reveal doctrine for this dispensation of the saints, the chosen people. So we're now the Jews, the chosen ones. So that has to be accepted totally and entirely. You have to pay 10% of your income in order to go to the temple. In order to get into heaven, you have to attend the temple. You have to receive your endowments and your garments, and you have to be sealed in order to get, which is a way of being married for time and all eternity, in order to get to heaven. Well, you might say, well, what about all those people that aren't able to get married here on earth? Oh, don't worry. They'll have an opportunity in heaven. And food for thought, something to know, something to think about. Women are more righteous than men, and therefore there will be more women that are entitled to go to heaven. Therefore, men are going to be burdened with the responsibility of marrying these virgin women to be their wives in heaven. And that is how they will repopulate the worlds that they build when they're gods. What? That's right, when they're gods. Pretty sweet. Now, I originally said, what does it mean to be black and be Mormon? Now, to be black and to be Mormon, you have to accept also the doctrine that Cain slew Abel, and as the murderer of Abel became the son of perdition, was cast out of the garden, but he was given a mark. And according to Mormon doctrine, that mark he was given was black skin. And that black skin was marked upon him so that everyone knew not to slay him. I don't know who was going to come out and slay him, because as far as I knew, it wasn't just Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel is now dead, but whatever. Cain was kicked out and he was cursed to walk the earth the entirety of time. He was to never die. He was going to be an immortal son of perdition. Now, somehow he found somebody to be with, and he reproduced, and that is where all black people come from. In case you didn't know that. So if you're black and Mormon, that's what you believe, and you're batshit crazy, and you have no self-respect. That's just the facts, dude. And here's the thing: my great-great-grandmother, my grandfather's grandma, was pure-blooded Native American. She spoke Choctaw and Cherokee. David O. McKay spoke to Native Americans, and this was when he was prophet. Now, keep in mind, anything the prophet says is the same as though God said it within the Mormon community. And he told these Native Americans that as they become more righteous, their skin will become lighter, because you have to understand that Mormons believe that the Native Americans come from Israel. That in 600 BC, a man by the name of Lehi received a vision, and he gathered his wife Sariah and their children, Laman, Lemuel, Nephi, and Sam, as well as a man by the name of Zoram and his daughters, and they built a ship and they came to the Americas, and Laman and Lemuel were evil. They refused to follow the teachings of God, and they murmured, as it says, against their father and transgressed the commandments of the Lord, and these were Jews. And so they were cursed with dark skin, and their offspring were cursed with dark skin, which would have been my great-great-grandma. And now my skin, you can see, is light, so I've become righteous. False. She just married a white guy. And so on and so forth. A bunch of white people. So I'm not white because I'm righteous. I'm white because that's the DNA that's in me. So David O. McKay actually taught this principle. So not just to black people, but to brown people in terms of Native Americans. And I assume, since Hispanic Americans are tan because they're Native American as well, that they too will lighten. I guess. So, to be a black person in the Mormon church, Gladys Knight, what? What are you thinking? Why would you disrespect yourself at such a level? Which also puts a spin on things when you think about the fact that Mitt Romney debated Barack Obama, believing that Barack Obama was a descendant of the son of perdition, Cain, the one who slew Abel. That's crazy. That's batshit crazy. Now, keep in mind, black men have only been able to hold the priesthood, which every male in the Mormon church holds a priesthood. Everybody's a priest. That's the thing. Everyone's a priest. But in order to be a full-fledged member and hold the priesthood within the Mormon church, you had to be white until 1978. Isn't it interesting that that was the law of the church, and God didn't change his mind until the civil rights movement was over, or kind of coming to an end? That's crazy. You don't see that. Plural marriage. Plural marriage existed until the federal government told Wilbur Woodruff that you're going to lose your tax-exempt status if you don't teach your congregation to stop practicing polygamy. Oddly enough, under both circumstances, God gave revelation to these Latter-day prophets. So now, another problem with Latter-day revelation would have to be, was God lying to you then, or is he lying to you now? Because how can he be omnipresent, Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, unchanging, unwavering? He cannot be hindered by the arm of flesh. How can he be all that and then change his law? It doesn't make sense. Now, in no way am I saying black people are the son of Cain. I think it's all bullshit. And when I found these things out, I had to make a decision. Is this something I'm going to be affiliated with, or am I going to take a stand? And see, now I had to take a stand, and it was a difficult thing to do because I lived in the heart of Mormonism. I lived in Utah, where Mormon is king. So, I had to ask myself, how can I be affiliated with something that has a corrupt past? Knowingly be affiliated with it, and I couldn't. So, how a black person can become a Mormon that's like stupid squared, man. That's crazy.